Hello and welcome to our Ecamm Foundations Masterclass. Great to see some familiar faces. I haven't been bringing your comments on because, well, you'll find out in a minute. We're not set for that bit yet. We're going to do it during the class, but we're in for a 2-hour session today. So I hope you've already had your comfort breaks and got yourself ready for this. What do we mean by foundations? We've called this our Ecamm Foundations training, and we do a lot of Ecamm training, and we're more and more appreciating that you guys are using Ecamm for so many different things. And so rather than doing a specific training on one thing that maybe isn't relevant to everybody, we want to just go over these 4 foundations that we really think, regardless of what you're doing, these are 4 stages that are really going to help you to level up your production. So my aim is that you will work along with me today and with Fuljens when he comes on later as well. This is going to be very interactive, and I want you to see how easily you can create something really quite special. If you're not able to work along with us, then at least to do the planning part of it now, and we want you to build up a profile. You can do the work after. Yeah, come intentionally to this session. We really want you to not just sit and watch along, but to really be thinking, okay, I'm going to get involved in this. All right. I'm just spotting Corp here. I've been watching Corp Academy down here. Corp, you would understand this. You know, Corp does a lot of doodling, training, working along, and he's encouraging people, draw along with me while I'm doing this. And so it's the same kind of idea as to what we're doing here. All right, so you're going to come out of this, if you work along with us, with a nice new profile that potentially is going to look like this and will be relevant to whatever it is that you're doing. All right, so we want you all to leave feeling inspired at the end of this. We want you to be leveling up in your production and really understanding some new ways of coming at this. And I really want to try to keep this as simple as possible. I think I'm pretty good at being simple, if that doesn't sound wrong. But yeah, do kind of follow along with us, and we're really going to try and keep this. I want you to come away going, I can do that. All right, that's the goal of this. And I know Fuljens as well is coming on later. Again, a real master at educating. And so you've got me for the first hour, and so Fuljens, bless him, is sitting back there in the in my Zoom meeting on his own. But Fuljens is going to come and join me in an hour, and yeah, you'll understand quite what we're doing. Really coming through here, Fuljens, along with Anna, run the ENN show and BuildingBlocks, and so what I'm going to be talking to you about in this first slot, Fuljens is really going to be reinforcing this to you and letting you see this isn't just me and just my idea. This is absolutely what they do as well, and what most of us pros do when we're putting our shows together. Then we will have a time for Q&A at the end of this, but we are back tomorrow, and we'll be on Zoom tomorrow. We really want you to register so that you can come and join us on Zoom, and we've got 2 hours where I will be doing I do want to have an Ecamm into Zoom mini masterclass at the start of that session tomorrow. It feels way more relevant when we're in Zoom, but then really tomorrow it's all about being a big Q&A session for you and a chance for you to come with what you've built today and let us have a look at it. Let us give you some feedback. So highly interactive tomorrow. So please don't worry if I don't get to all the questions today. We will be putting them over there, and we'll really follow through with it tomorrow. And just kind of wrapping up my notices, we've got a few moderators in with us as well. So big thanks to you guys that are in from the Ecamm team helping out. If you are asking questions today, it does just help if we can put a Q colon at the start of that. And it means in the chat, I can see that it isn't just, oh dear, audio's coming in and out. That's not good to hear. There's a couple of you saying that. All looks good on my end. Sorry, let me just, sound is great. Okay, I need to stop. Not sure what that is. Fuljens is saying sounds fine. Thank you, Fuljens. All right, I'm going to keep going, and hopefully that isn't an issue. And yeah, we'll make sure we've got, if it's something to do with the internet, which again, shouldn't be, we'll make sure that the recording gets put up tomorrow that comes straight out of here. And hopefully any issues like that will be knocked out. So tomorrow, same time on Zoom. As I say, make sure you get registered. It's totally free. We just want to be able to bring you over there to a private little meeting over on Zoom. Okay, so we're going to get into this. So we've got 4 stages that we want to work through. And the first of these stages is planning. So before we go anywhere near Ecamm, what actually are you using Ecamm for? So let's have a look. You can tell me in the comments over here. We're going to have a go at a poll, but good. I'm glad to see it. A few more of you are just confirming that the audio sounds all right. So what are you using Ecamm for? Let's keep this nice and interactive on here. I'd love to hear from you. Are you using it to live stream like we're doing right now? Is this for webinars? Are you doing presentations? Are you really primarily using it for support calls on Zoom, podcasts, interviews, or anything else? Let me know. Give us a good feel for this. So Laurie says training. Training where, Laurie? That's kind of half the answer I'm after. Just trying to find out really destinations and what that primary goal is. I'm seeing a few questions in there. I'm going to leave the team to answer those because I know they'll be doing a great job of that. YouTube recording, live streaming, podcast recording, YouTube, all of the above, live streaming, webinars, live streaming, recording videos, all live streaming. Okay, interesting. So a big mix there actually. And I think last time we looked at this, the vast majority was saying Zoom. Which is a good job I didn't go with plan A, and I've come up with a slightly different plan today. Tech presentations, live streaming, used to have a weekly video podcast too, mostly live streaming church services, says Larry. Live streaming presentations, support calls, Paul. Yeah, send it to Kajabi. Okay, so you're recording videos that you can use inside a course platform. Fantastic. Right, lovely to see what you're doing. Now, what I thought we'd do actually is last time we ran this, the first time we ran this program, it's always a bit different. You run this thing one time through and then you tweak it and you change it up. We actually picked one of your topics and said, right, okay, Zoom or podcast, let's go through and just sort of build out what it is that you need. And what I thought this time is actually, I know you like the behind the scenes. I love it too. And so what I've created here, I've actually only got one more scene ready to go. And I need to build the rest of them, else Fuljens isn't going to be able to come on and join us. So I figured, why don't we get into this? And actually, I'm going to show you, so what we call, this is a masterclass. This is would run similar to a webinar. Maybe this is more of a class and a training than a webinar. But I'm going to show you how I come at this, and I want you to be thinking, how do you apply this? How would you plan out yours? And if you've got an old-fashioned pen and paper or a notes or something at the side of you, why don't you be thinking this as you're thinking of that show? John Nabbs just put there about YouTube. Ed said about live web presentations, teaching. So Ed, perfect. Let's really think. We're not on Ecamm yet. Let's just think through what is it that you would be doing, and let's go through these stages. So for me, I'm thinking, what is the aim of this show? I talked with the Ecamm team months back, and we talk about doing this foundations class. Well, what's the point of it? Why are we doing this? I've just realized I've got another slide for this. It's good to just get clear on what this is. For some, this might be a sales presentation. It might be that training that you're doing. You might be delivering it differently. So how am I going to deliver it? We need to do a lot of screen sharing today, and there's a lot of actual practical presenting. It's not going to be slides that I've done in advance, and it's not that slideshow that I'm putting across. I don't need to have multiple cameras. You don't need to see me getting up and away from this desk. But you need to just think through those different things. What is it that you're trying to do? How are you going to deliver it? A call to action. Let's think right at the top before we even start. Where do we want someone to go at the end of this presentation, a video, whatever it is that you're doing? It's good to have that in there. For us, I want you guys to come back and join us in Zoom tomorrow. And ultimately, we're doing this because we've got our Ecamm Live Academy coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that your appetites will be whetted and you want to come and join us in that academy. But we put it out here on YouTube because we want this to be freely available, and we know that it will serve you and give you a lot of great information, even if you don't come and join us in that. So we're going through that. Where are we going to do this? So in this case, we're out here on YouTube. We're then going to plan this out. And so that's the first thing that I would be doing is weeks back, I'm thinking, right, okay, I've got this training. What do I want to do? How am I going to deliver this to people? What do I need to cover? We want to talk about the basics, the foundations, and I start to just map this out. And I'll show you in a minute my script, which is the next point. We write out a script. As I'm writing out that script, I would then come back through. I know that for us, for instance, we've got 2 hours, and that can feel like a lovely amount of time, but I got to get through these 4 points. I want to make sure you get some real practical building in. I don't want to keep Fuljens waiting on the hour. So I can start to put in here some times as to this that'll just help me out as well. And then I go through it all and I think about how I'm going to build it out in Ecamm. Now, let me just show you, for the sake of this, I'm going to be using this live demo mode a lot over here. And so all I've just done for now, this is my script that has been up there on my prompter. And you can see what I'm writing as I'm going down this. And I just get used to sort of, I'll put different things in different colors to put in here. But I've gone right through this presentation. And then I come back to the top here and I just put in here what actually I want from Ecamm. So you'll see in a minute that all I've done is to create an intro and to do what I call a me scene. This is this one over here that is just me on full camera. Then these couple of slides that we've done, and that's as far as I've got. But I'm then going to need to build out really a screen share. Like I say, I'm using live demo mode and it kind of does away with that, but it may well be that something comes up and I need to send you over to a website. So we want to have a screen share. Myself and Fuljens, we'll put ourselves side by side. I need Fuljens branded. And on that scene, I need to make sure that I'm muted. Fuljens, sorry, I spelt your name wrong there. Fuljens, full screen with me muted again. So that's when really it can take over, and Fuljens doesn't want to be sitting inside this branding when he's bringing his own to the table. Then you'll see that we're going to have a chat thing where I can bring up these comments. So this chat over on this side of my window, we're going to be able to pull that in and I can see all your lovely faces and comments coming in here. So yeah, I've going down this chats and then an outro, and with the outro, I've just put there, I'm going to do it the same as the intro, but without the timer. I'm going to make sure we're muted. We'll put a little call to action message, maybe just saying, come back and join us tomorrow. And then I've thought through tomorrow as well. We're going to be on Zoom. So both of us need to be up on camera for most of tomorrow. And then we want the active camera. We want to have full screen for a guest. So if we're going to bring you on to share your screen. Yeah, so this is just dead easy. You're going to see in a little while Fuljens doing this in a much more professional way. This is just a Google Doc that I literally just start with. Originally, there would have been some notes scribbled up here where I have that initial kind of brain dump. But yeah, so that's really what I'm doing here, how I'm going through this, how I'm building it all out. And as you can see here, that's the planning stage. So I'm going to come back out of this. I'm going to put my notes back in front of me up there. And this should be obvious, and a lot of you might well be sitting going, of course I'm doing that. Of course I'm planning it out like that. Or maybe you're doing it and not really thinking about it. But I just want to kind of seal this in as a stage that you have to do. And before you start playing with Ecamm and building out scenes, really to come at it so that you've thought through the whole thing first, and then I can scroll down that, and that makes me go, oh yeah, Fuljens is coming on at that point. I need to make sure we've got a scene there for him. And yeah, so I hope that helps, and I want to keep it as loose as that. Really, that's as much as we want to say really on this planning stage, because I really want to get in and have plenty of time in on the building, and I'm not doing bad. I'm only 1 minute behind the time that's up on my script, and we're going to jump across to building. Actually, before I do, any quick Laurie's liking the words on the side. I'm going to show you how to do all of this. Right, fantastic, good. I'm not saying anything in there that's making me feel I need to come jumping back in. So we're going to actually start building, and this is the main event. This is what you're here for. I just wanted to kind of top and tail it with the planning and the bits that come afterwards. And so there are two ways that we use Ecamm to run our shows, and loosely, really two styles that I would say when you're thinking of building: this back and forth style, and then a scene to scene style. What I mean by that is, like now, I'm building out some scenes here, and I'm going to have a scene with me. I have a scene with Fuljens. I've got, maybe I've got a screen share scene, all those different ones, the chat, where I want to be able to jump back and forth. So I'm talking now, and I'll go, let's come across to the comments, tap on my Stream Deck, and then all of a sudden I bring up a different scene. This is what I would call back and forth, and we plan it out, and actually that same set, this profile, can serve us for multiple shows. We don't have to rewrite it every time. The alternative to that is what I would call scene to scene. And I do this if I'm doing a formal webinar and I'm not massively interacting with the audience. I'll have a slot where I'll say, right, now let's come across to the comments. But I really am literally going scene to scene. And I want to show you this in action. I've got over here. So for my, where am I? So you can see it here in my scenes window. And I will backtrack in just a minute to explain what scenes are if you don't know what we're talking about. But every time I'm changing on camera, it's because a scene is changing. You can see them there, yeah? So I'm clicking back and forwards between these. I won't click the intro because it'll start all that again. But for the sake of this, I've just dropped in here one of my webinars, and it is a completely different branding that you can see there. But notice, notice I've got in here 115 scenes. And some of you might think I'm crazy for doing this, but the benefit for me is, and I've got open actually on here. Let me, again, I'm in live demo. Let me just drag it down here, and you can see this is my script that I would run through with this webinar. And all I do is I put a little red mark over this, in my case, that every time I see that, I know that I click next scene, either on my Stream Deck, or typically I've got a Stream Deck pedal. We can talk about all this stuff tomorrow. But this is a scene to scene. So I'm talking through here where it says about, for instance, where are we? My aim is that by the end of this session, is that in this one? Yeah. By the end, you will understand. And then you come down here, and the next mark says, so you can, I can see that, I click, go from this to this, and it's not just about record. So you can see how that works, yeah? I'm being very transparent here. So this is how I have that script, and every time there is that red marker, it's an indicator to me to say, click next scene. So that becomes much easier. Yes, it means there's more prep work up front, but if it's something I'm doing as a regular webinar, and I just want to be able to sit and follow a script, and whenever I see a mark, tap, keep going, tap, without having to go, oh, which scene am I going to, and jump around like that. Yep. Lowell says that's very cool. Pleased to hear that. To me, these are just two different styles, two different ways that I come at this personally. And so when we're talking about building out here, so if you're thinking, if what you're really building for is a webinar, I would encourage you to literally just keep duplicating those scenes down one after the other with every slide. And I can just sit here and tap it. Part of my thinking for that, and I know some of you will think I'm crazy and you just have a, you know, your presentation in Keynote at the side of you and you just tap it and go through them there. I'm always about trying to minimize risk and just keep this as simple as possible. If I know that that slide is sitting there in my scene and all I've got to do is click next, nothing's going to go wrong. You know, I'm not going to suddenly lose power on my iPad that's connected, or it loses the connection or anything like that. So I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. I'm just telling you this is how I do it. And really, as we come at this, when I'm talking about this planning and then building in Ecamm, this is really what's going through my mind. Okay, what kind of a show is this going to be? Will I be running through a strict script where I'm just jumping to the next one, or do I want this back and forth style like I'm doing here? Okay, hopefully that helps a little bit. Robert's always tried to memorize your outline. Think it's better to have even the layout written out. Yeah, and Roberto, that's a really good point. You know, I'm saying in here about planning all this out, even if I do this with my YouTube videos, that's probably the most common thing that I'm doing when I'm sitting here recording. Even if I don't plan to have that word for word script, it just helps me to plan it. If I just type it out, I'm thinking through anyway exactly what I'm going to say. So I write it down and I can have it there. And even if it isn't there in front of me as a script, you're right, but it can help you as you're doing this planning. It can help you to think through what scenes you're going to need. You're not, if you're just kind of making this up and doing it on the fly, you might go, oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, so it really comes into this whole planning. Right, now let's get into this and have a play. Now, normally we would, the first thing I would say to you, it would be to build a new scene, build a new profile. Now, I'm going to come into live demo mode. I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually. Let me just, I feel a bit bad because I got Fuljens sitting down there at the bottom of my screen. I'm just going to push you off my screen. So when I'm live demo mode in Fuljens, it's okay if you've nodded off. Actually, go on, just give us a wave again. There he is. He's just hiding down there. He's being really well behaved. So yeah, first thing I would do is recommend to you that you build out a new profile. And you can see in here, I've got a lot of profiles made every time we do something new. So this is my Ecamm Foundations February 25. I have a general one where is that back and forth type scenes in there, and all other different ones that we've done. So I can't do this because we're actually live and I'm already in a profile. It's one of the things I can't demonstrate to you, but I would recommend to you, for what we're doing today, click new blank profile and name it Ecamm Foundations or something like that. Okay, now yours is going to look, so I can actually, we're not going to need to go back to that, are we? Let me just delete that out for you. There we go. That was a bit brave. Okay, it doesn't want to let me do the whole, maybe that's not a bad thing. So ignore we've got this webinar up here. It's not, yeah, go on. What's the worst that could happen? So we've literally got the intro. If you were here at the start, you'd have seen that and heard the intro. Let me just play that just for a second. And then we come into this scene here. And then all I've done is to create these ones because I needed to, because we've already talked about it. And then that's as far as we've got. So we're going to go through this and build these out. Now, I said, and I've got to keep telling myself, I've got a big note up there, keep it simple. I do really want to come at this, you know, from someone who's really with very little experience of Ecamm. So we're talking here about a profile, and as you can see, it's really just creating that profile every time we build something new, and then you can move to something else and it'll just keep those settings locked in on one And rather than move, if I kept this same profile and then I go and do a support call and I'm changing things around and then I want to come back to this one, it's completely lost. So you've got no limit on profiles. Just make a new one every time or duplicate one and then knock out the bits that you don't need. So from the profile, we work in scenes. So my scenes window up here, yours might be different. These are all flexible. They float around wherever you want to put them. I've just got used to sort of having my scenes up there. And we can build scenes up here. We can duplicate one to another, which you'll see me doing in a minute. Then I have overlays. So we'll see overlays as we start working, but the overlays really are any element that is on the screen. So we're going to start off with a completely blank scene and I'll show you how we build. In fact, I'll redo this one and let you see it completely from scratch. Okay. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. You only really need to see this top part of my screen for now. So I'm going to hit plus. And what you're going to see is that I've got this background in here. Now, normally, if when you create a new scene, it will say to you up here that your source could be I think typically your camera is your source in Ecamm when you come into this. So for now, let's change this to blank. And we're going to call this me too. Always name these. I learnt this really from Fuljens. It puts me to shame with how organized and tidy his work is. But I like that, something very quick and easy and memorable that as you look at it, you know exactly what it is. Not default scene 2, 3, 4, or copy of and all those things. So we've got a complete blank one here. And the first thing you spotted was that I'd got a background image in there that if I come out and over here, where are we? I want you to see, like I say, I'm making sure this is really transparent and you can see everything we're doing. So if I just grab, this is a PNG file here, and we've made it available to you if you want to play along with us here, that you can actually drop this in and you can have this background that I'm working with here. So you'll see Paul or someone in the chat will just drop this in if you want to have a look at that. Don't get too distracted right now, but that comes in as it's a PNG. It's an image that we've just dropped onto here. But you'll notice that what I did, instead of having it in current scene, is I've dropped it down here to show in background. And what that means is that every time I say blank scene as a source, that'll be at the back of every scene that I create. So that was the first thing we'd got. Now, I did have this I was inspired by the branding that the Ecamm team put together, Marshall Fox, I believe it was, that had gone from this, light to dark orange. And so we created, all this is here is just a little line, a little rectangle. And so let's come into our new one. And so in my overlays, I'm going to click at this bottom one that just says a new shape overlay. It'll potentially come in and look very odd to start with because it's just sort of remembering what your last one was. And this is cheating a bit because it's already made it for me. But if, let's say it came in like this, and I can hit on this pencil at the side of it, and I can change this shape anyway to whatever I want to do, wherever I want to go. And it's a rectangle. I can fill it just with a solid color. What I've done here is to use a gradient. And because I'd got, where is it? If I find the original image that I took from Ecamm, it's actually in there. So I'd seen, I'm getting tripped up. I got a couple of windows open. So I'd seen this image that Ecamm had put together as the promotion for this event. And I thought, I like that. And so look, this isn't my new idea. I'm pinching it from here, but we've gone from this dark to the light orange down the side. And so if I can have that asset available, let me just make it a bit smaller. Right? It's a bit hard on this screen to bring it down. Come on. Doesn't want to. Right, I'm just trying to get this so you can see it on the window here. But if I pull it over here, we'll try like this. What you can do in Ecamm is when you're choosing a color on this, so I click up here and it'll bring up somewhere on your screen, it will pop up, it's usually somewhere random. Notice this tiny little, when you're in the colors, there's this little pipette down here. And when I click on that, I can go to anywhere on my window, and what's under that circle, it will pull in as a color. And then once it's there, I can drag it across if I want to, and I can save it in this little palette I've got down below. So I'll do that while I've got this here anyway. I'll come back over, I'll take this lighter color, and then I'm going to drop that in there. So these last two colors here are the two shades that I want to be able to get this gradient to go from light to dark. So what I'm going to do is the first one up here, we're now going to choose this dark. And in the second one, it's already locked in as that light one because it did it last time. And then look, I can just adjust on this little dot here to say which side I want it to go. Top to bottom, side to side. Okay. And now, so what I've done, so what I could have done, to be honest, I did this the wrong way around. No, I don't need to do that. I put my one 90 degrees and put it on its side, but I'm just realizing I didn't even need to do that, did I? So I could go here, and which way around were we? We go from dark to light. I don't need to have rounded corners on this, and it should let me push it up there and bring it down to the side. And look, there we go. We've just made a nice little branded edge to it. Now, if I want to keep that locked in place, I can just click the little padlock on my overlay, and then I won't knock it and it won't get pulled out of place. Okay, are you with me so far? Does color picker work with Pantone colors? Pantone colors. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that really. For if it can see it there on your screen, it'll put it in. If that helps. Sorry. Right, now what I'm going to do is build in we're going to now bring in, I want to bring my camera on screen here, or you're going to have, one of the main things you're going to want is your camera on screen. So down at the bottom of the overlays again, so you can see what I'm saying. We build a scene and then we start adding overlays to it to create it. So we click on here and my camera has come in, but it's not the shape I want it. And depending again on what you last set it to, it will change. So it will tell you up here what your camera source is. It'll tell you a shape. You might find it comes in as this 16:9. What I would do is just go to custom at the bottom, and that allows you to play with this and just fit it to exactly where you want it. Now, the other thing that I've done in this example is that I have created a border. So let me just slow down a second. We're in this scene, we're on an overlay. That pencil tool is the key. I click on that little pencil at the side of the overlay. It won't appear if I'm not on it. So when I'm down here, there's no pencil tool. As my cursor comes up, pencil tool appears. And so we started with the camera source. We've changed its shape. The next one down is, do I want a border? And I'm just putting color. I'm trying to keep this quite subtle and simple. We've got that nice little orange accent down the side, so I don't want to do the same as that. So all I've done is color in the same way. I just go down here to these pencils or picking off from anywhere, and I can choose that border. And I've just got this look on a border of 1. It can look very different, and this is just down to taste as to whether you like this. And a corner radius, if you want to, you can round off these edges. So quite often in a design, I would go for this, and probably because of the way this has got some strong curved lines in it, maybe this one makes sense, but I've just opted this time to pull that right back to a little pencil line there because I feel like that's the same thickness as those circles, and just white just helps it stand out. Now, the last thing that I've done on here, there are options for opacity and things that you're not going to need for this one. But I do like to just drop this shadow on here. So notice the difference on there that we've just dropped a shadow. It just lifts it. So I click my pencil to let that go away. One of the things you can find a little bit frustrating when you're doing building like this is that it's a bit busy on the screen here. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. So what you can actually do is, I'm going to get stuck now trying to remember where it is. On my window, hide the main window controls. Now it's the command and tilde. It's that tiny little symbol there that is near your shift key. And I've got it now programmed onto my Stream Deck, so it's nice and easy for me. But let me just show you it without that in the way. If I press that hide controls, all of that disappears and it allows me to work with it. The only thing I would say is just remember to bring it back, because notice I can't stop this live at the minute and I've lost all my info. So I need that back to be able to have this information around me. Okay, so really nice for while you're doing any design work, but just remember to bring it back in. So I'm going to put this up. I'm trying to think what I did with this one actually. Let me just jump back to that one. Okay, we were slightly bigger there. So I'm using that blue line at the top. I don't want to go any higher than that. I'm bringing it back down. I did leave myself some space here because I wanted to be able to put that text up the side. And notice that as I'm moving this around, I'm not in the center on this one. I know I'm high deliberately, but I am definitely down the center of the window there. Okay, we're then going to bring in a text overlay because I want my name at the bottom of this. So I hit down here for a text overlay, and we are using this typeface is called Thunder. It is, I think, Adobe. You can get it from Adobe, but you can get hold of this, and I'm just using this. I like it. Again, the reason really that I'm using it is this is what Ecamm used in that promotion. And so I want it to just tie together, and I feel like I'm inspired by that. And so let's have a go at using it. Now I don't want a shadow on this, and we are going to have a background. Hang on a second. Background, we are going to go with a gradient. And we will come back and have a little bit of a play with this one in a minute. So we're going to be able to access it in the same way that we did with the other one. But so I don't usually sort of do the editing of the background in here. I would bring that in. We can then size that, put it where we want. So again, I'm keeping that locked in the center, and I'm just, maybe let the text go through the center there. Now I can, again, as I say, come back into this with my pencil. I can change this around if I want to, change that angle of the gradient. I do want to put a shadow on this that matches the other. What do we think? Text margin will just allow more or less space around what you've done. We used to do this, again, learnt all this from Fuljens, with bringing text in and then creating a box to sit behind it. But for what I'm doing here, actually, this works quite well. Pencil, the one thing I want to do with this is a transition that says fly in from bottom. I'll demonstrate it so you can see what I mean. When I come to this one and I come back, my name comes up from the bottom. Okay, so as I say, it's all there under this. Have a play with it. You can't break it. You can do Command Z and go back if you do something that you don't like. Now, finally on this, and no, it's not really 22. Fuljens, you might not be coming on at this stage. The last thing I just want to show you, somebody commented on the way that I'd put that at the side there. And all I've done is, again, I've just brought in text, but I don't want to have a background on this one. And what did we call this one? We're not really on number 2. So we're going to say number 2 building. Don't worry that it's got background in it for now. Pull that up, and we are going to lose the background. And now you can see me doing this rotation. We're going to go 90 degrees. Come on, somebody's got to be a light bulb moment. You didn't know that. I love when we do these things and there's new little things that have been slipped in here and people don't realize it's there. So I just popped that in there, and I thought, let's just back it off a bit. That opacity that we looked at earlier, I've just pulled that back. And so, yeah, there it is. So there's nothing crazy in here that's, I can do the same thing with that transition to fly in from the bottom. There's nothing crazy here that you can't just copy along and do. Yeah. And I think that looks really nice. So you're all going to have a go at this and build this out. I need to speed up a little bit because, in fact, maybe what I could do with this scene, I'm going to duplicate this one down because I really need a scene for myself and Fuljens. So I would put on here me and Fuljens. Can I give you a massive tip here? See, I've just created that, I've duplicated it, I've renamed it, but I'm actually still in the scene above. See that the white box is around there? I can't tell you how many times I've edited a scene and realized I'm in the wrong one. So it's not the end of the world, you just change the names over, but let's make sure I'm in the right one. And so what I'm going to do on this one is pull this camera over because we've got this custom feature. How much do we need? Fuljens, remind me if you could bring up your little guide when we come to it, your grid. That'll be really useful to have a look at. Fuljens has got a great little grid that we can use here. So I'm thinking I could come back across here now, and if I hit Option, hold down Option on my keyboard and drag this window across, it will duplicate it. And so at the moment you've got 2 of me and we've got this, and again I'm going to hit Option and drag it across to here, and we're going to edit the text on this. And what I'm going to do is select and I'll bring you on for a second, Fuljens, don't panic. So I'm going to select on here my cameras. Notice that because Fuljens has already come in and he's sitting inside of Ecamm, we'll talk about this tomorrow or towards the end of this live. Fuljens is already there. So when I click on this, automatically Fuljens has come into our placeholder. Right, sit tight, Fuljens. I will be back. And notice actually that a little line there does snap to the center of. So we've got the center, or we've got the. That's interesting. There it goes. Right, so it will either give you a line on a quarter, or it will line it up to the center of that image. Now. And what I need to make sure as well, one of the things as you're going through this is when I'm in this one, I need to make sure, and this is what comes up in the next stage of this, the third stage, is that we go through this and just make sure that if Fuljens laughed or coughed or said something, we're not going to pick him up until he's on camera. So when we're going scene to scene, I only really want for Fuljens to be unmuted when he's on, and likewise when Fuljens is on his own, and that's my next scene, then I'm going to make sure that I'm muted for that scene. So that's a little bit trickier to build because I need to be muted while we're doing it. But for this one, because I know Fuljens will, be showing off his own show and what he's doing, he doesn't want to sit inside this branding. So I'm just going to hit, instead of cloning that scene, I'm going to create a new one this time. And remember that my source by default now is blank. but I want to change it to camera, but I don't want my camera. What I'm going to do is change my camera here. So at the top, camera, I'm going to change this across to Fuljens. And I'll make sure Fuljens has got audio on, but I'm muted. Now I've jumped back into that scene so it isn't muting me. And what I'm just going to do is to name that one Fuljens. Okay. Yep. So I've got Fuljens full size there. Me sitting in here. We're not going to get to the rest of the scenes, but I hope the fact that we've kind of gone in depth like that shows, you know, that certainly for this, and if you could have a go at this before tomorrow, building out a scene, bringing in a camera, trying a few overlays, play with the branding and different things. I mean, what I've put in there, what we've given you that image for the background, you could absolutely just go off if you went and got like a PowerPoint background, or you could search and find all these different backgrounds or Canva. Try dropping things into the background and see what you think to it. You'll see in a minute what Fuljens is doing and how they use this. So you can create things in Ecamm. You can even put a video clip that is moving and rotating in there. I would just be a little bit careful of that. It's with your bandwidth and with the processor, just making sure if you've got a video file constantly going in the background, you just handle with care. Or if you start to find things are lagging and sticking, they're the sort of things that I would be looking at to just be careful of. Now, what I'm going to skip through, I haven't created. What I shall do is build some of these out with my own homework before tomorrow. What I want to get us onto is, one that we need to do before then that I want to show you is just the comments. So when we're doing, and we'll use it tomorrow as well, because we can now bring comments on in Zoom as well. When I click on here, so let's pick on Kundalini baby and bring this in. That comes, that looks a bit strange at the minute. It's coming in like this as an overlay. And I want to brand this. Now it's a bit hard even getting it, and I know it's going to disappear in a second. One of my settings down here in your preferences, right on the first scene, on the first tab, says automatically hide comments after 15 seconds. So while I'm editing it, I want to take that off. And let's bring this back on. Hey, come on. Laura's doing it. So let's have a look then. While Laura's here, at the minute, it's a bit plain. There's, you know, a transparent background. We've got lots of ways that we could brand this. You've seen, this is what I love, the way Ecamm have built it like this now. You know, it's the same navigation for all of this. So if we wanted to put this color background or a gradient, we could actually copy across. I don't know whether it will be too much, but we could actually bring in this same color gradient as a background. I'm not going to actually. I think because we've got so much going on, I'm reluctant to do that. Let's just go back to, and maybe that's why I'd got this in from before, just a black. And notice down here is a different place we can do it. I can adjust this opacity and just take that out. So it's just taking, you're not seeing straight through it. There's a little bit there. You can, in the same way as we did with the camera overlay and the text overlay, we can put a margin around it. We can put a border around it if you want to. I might just leave it as is for now. Shadow doesn't work like that when you've got transparency. What I can also do is just change the fonts and things. So Laura's name here, let's change that to this Thunder font and increase the size of it. So it's going to bring my names in looking a bit more funky. And maybe actually we change the color of that name. There we go. We've got to bring a bit of color in somewhere, haven't we? So now it will show me, this is how Laura's comment comes in. And you'll notice that if I click any others now that come through, then they're all going to come in looking lovely. Hey, Andy. Okay, so that's just branding up the comments that I wanted to show you. And now let's just turn that back on so it will automatically hide them after 15 seconds. So for a show like this, where I'm going through it with you, it just allows me to look at the comment. Oh, that was really good. And I'll pop it on there. Laura's saying yay. And yeah, we need a bit more work on this, but I'm trying to work out. In fact, maybe I'll ask Fuljens in a minute quite where and how we could bring this in. Maybe if I'd pushed up my camera view up here, it would actually create a bit of space to bring this comment in down below and outside of I'm struggling. And I could also, I'm stuck behind this preview at the minute, but I could also do the same thing with this. Gone. I can do the same thing with this that says transition, fly in from bottom. So every time I bring this new comment on, when my controls are hit, well, you cannot see it anyway, but when I bring a new one on, they'll all pop up in the corner down here. And maybe that's the way to do it. I just need to watch that it's not catching here. So yeah, it starts to, I'm going to start wishing I hadn't started doing it, but you get the idea. We can do that. And as you resize it, it'll get bigger or smaller, the text on there as well. Right, so very quickly, and we don't need long on this really. The third of these points is practicing, and it's not working. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Oh, I'm on a different scene, that's why I haven't got it in this scene. The third one is practicing, and so really this is the biggest tip. So although I'm rushing through this a little bit, don't lose this one. The times when people have issues on their lives with bad audio or a bad mix, you know, maybe the guest is too loud, they're too quiet, all of a sudden a sound effect comes on really loud, or they don't even realize they're muted when they're on a scene. All of that stuff can be eliminated with practicing. Now we're doing this a bit on the fly today, and I'm building scenes before Fuljens even has come on. Yes, we spoke in advance, but typically you would practice this in advance. You would know what you're doing, and so don't leave it too late, but really make sure you give yourself time to have a practice run through this. And what I'm meaning really is I would hit record, and you can do that on, I can't show you that, but at the top where it says about streaming, there's an option there just to record without streaming. And I run through my scenes and I talk while it's happening. So when the intro's on, I shouldn't hear myself. So I can confidently talk in the background. I move on to my next scene. I move on to my next scene. I come down to Fuljens where I shouldn't be hearing me, and it'll just have a placeholder for guest 2. But run through it all. Play any sound effects you're going to do. Play any video clips you intend to do. Stop the recording, play it back, and just check that you're happy with how everything's coming out. Really, you know, it's the most ignored part of this, sadly, but really make sure to carve some time out. It will make a massive difference, and to your confidence as well, because our fourth point is when we get on to actually delivering this. If you've done that third point of practicing, then really when you get to delivering your actual live or record your video, do your podcast, it's familiar. You're like, I've already done this once. I'm just running through it again. I've got my notes in front of me. Yeah, and away I go and can run through it again. So the actual delivery bit, the bit that we fear the most, you can come into it way more confidently if you've done these stages before of practicing, making sure everything's built, right from that build stage of going through your script, your run of show, as you're going to hear Fuljens talking about. Time spent planning. You know, you could spend a day or more creating something like this. I promise it will be worth it. You'll get to actually doing that show. You'll feel so good. You're going to get all this amazing feedback. You don't want things going wrong and distracting people when you just want to be able to run your show. Okay, so that's kind of it for me. I'm very keen to bring Fuljens on. I don't know if we've got any questions. There are a few questions in here. Do you mind if I bring Fuljens in and we could just have a quick nose at that before we go any further? But I haven't got a Stream Deck button built for you, Fuljens. Right, so hello, Fuljens.
Hello.
How you doing?
Great.
Thank you for sitting patiently. I'm just hearing myself, I think. I don't know whether you've got it on with YouTube.
No, YouTube is muted on my end.
Okay. As long as nobody else is. Yeah. Don't worry. See, these are the things, aren't they, that if normally everything was built and I brought you in here and we were playing with this, we'd be able to have a test run through these things, what we're encouraging people here to do. Stephanie says, sound is awesome. All is fine. Fantastic. Right. So, Fuljens, thank you so much for patiently sitting there.
Absolutely.
Nothing majorly that you're disagreeing with so far?
No, and as you mentioned earlier, when I come on, it's mainly to reinforce what you were presenting, right? Because earlier we went through making sure you have a run of show or an outline of what you're going to actually either present in Ecamm or build out in Ecamm, and there are different ways you can do it, right? Because Adrian just showed you a document. Anna and I, we use a document called Craft. We can both work on it together at the same time. The document that Adrian's using, which is a Google document, the same thing. A lot of you use Notion, so whichever you prefer, but it's definitely important to create that outline. Pre-Anna, I didn't have any outlines. I didn't organize anything,
really?
That stuff.
I was just going to ask you to introduce yourself, actually, and tell us a little bit about... for those that don't know, you're probably more known than I am, but yeah. So what's this then? What was pre-Anna?
So pre-Anna basically reinforcing me to work on outlines and labeling my scenes and labeling the overlays and things like that. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find one of my earlier build outs when we first started doing ENN, and you should just see it's just JFK, blah, 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 blah. Like I just typed stuff out. It was a complete mess. No. But now it cannot be like that,
I
right?
assumed now it was you that was the tidy organized.
No, I was trained. I was trained.
I
can't take full credit for that. Yes, exactly. But now everything is amazing because, especially when doing these things and building these type of profiles for other Ecamm fan members, for clients and stuff like that, when they receive it on their end, they know exactly where to click, exactly where to change, exactly where to customize. Yeah. Everything is labeled and everything is grouped accordingly.
Yeah. And, I'm quite a stickler for deleting things out as well. If I have copied one scene across to another, but there are elements in there that aren't relevant to this scene, but they were in the previous one, I try to delete those out. Certainly when I'm doing that kind of webinar and I'm, just duplicating across, putting a new another slide in. Every 2 or 3, I'm just deleting what's there in the background, and it's a bit of my OCD, but I think being tidy is definitely helps with all this. Before we jump in, and I'm just seeing if there's anything in here question-wise. This will be much easier tomorrow because we'll be able to grab and we'll pull this in. We'll do a Q&A. So I'm always a bit hesitant when I go back to look at questions, whether they've already been answered. Thank you. Paul's just saying to put a Q in there. I think we're, can you import brand colors, or do we need to use the color pen to move them into Ecamm? That's a really good point. That's killing me, that overlay. Fuljens, where should I go? Come on, where am I going wrong with this one? What would you do to bring this in, and do I need more space in here to be able to bring it in, or should I just cover the background and put it over the top of my name?
And this is great because actually on Wednesday's episode of Building Blocks at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to actually cover how you can create dedicated comment overlay scenes. And that's what I was going to suggest to you, Adrian. So for example, here, we're on this scene where it's 2 cameras and 2 lower thirds and a background. It might be a little bit too busy for
bring the
displaying
comment
comments.
on as well. Yeah.
Unless how you had it before, where everything was kind of like lifted a little bit to leave that real estate at the bottom for the comment, so the comment can show as a lower third. But something you can do now, because a few Ecamm updates ago, we have a new feature where the text box, you can actually expand it how Adrian was showing you, and you could actually create dedicated scene to just display comments on that scene. Even the comment avatar, you can, there's a little slider where you can make the comment avatar bigger. So you can make comments full screen now in Ecamm as opposed to displaying them on a scene like this.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we'll hold you to that one, and we can give us a little teaser of what's coming up on that next show. Then maybe in a minute you can just show us what that looks like and how we could overcome this. But answering Lauren's question, can you import brand colors? Do we need to use a color pen? What we can do in here, and sorry, this is always hard, isn't it, when there's 2 of us on now that can answer the question. We're doing one after the other. There we go. Let me just go live demo mode a minute. So let's imagine we're just looking, we're picking a color on here, and we bring up this little palette. You can click on this second one across, and down here, look, you can put in your hex color. That would be normally where I would go to pick this up and pull it in. I know I don't tend to do this, but you can add your own little palette in here as well, can't you? So you can create your own one, which I'm doing from the wrong space here. So I'm going to get you to show us how to do that, Fuljens. I should have left you to answer it. So you can actually bring your own brand colors in, can't you? And have them in a palette, organized, and keep it all nice and slick.
Yes.
So I think it's time on that cue to pass over to you, really. And I'd like to hear from you as to how, like you said, kind of reinforcing what we've said here about this idea of planning. We'd love to hear about what you do with ENN and BuildingBlocks, and maybe we can bring some of this into it as well and show us how you would build some of these things out at the same time. Yeah, is that fair? Absolutely. To pass over, and I'll come off screen. We've just created a new scene for you. Hopefully it works, and I'll see you in a second. Well, give me a shout. I'm here. Absolutely. But I'll stay off and let you have a play a minute. Thanks so much, Fuljens.
Definitely. Thank you. All right. So what I wanted to do is show you a little bit of what it would look like when, for example, an ENN. Let me just backtrack a little bit. ENN is Ecamm Network News, which my co-host Anna Heel and I host every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on the Ecamm Live YouTube channel. We go over news updates, special events happening in the Ecamm Live community. We celebrate Ecamm Live community members, and we do lots of fun and games. We give away prizes in the form of Ecamm merch. We also bring on special guests to the show. There's a lot going on. So a run of show for a busy ENN can be, quite complex. And, I'm going to show you a little bit of that. And also you'll see how we're kind of reinforcing what Adrian told you earlier. And on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Building Blocks. Building Blocks is essentially, what is that? The building blocks of Ecamm, live streaming, video production. And you walk away with different tips and tricks of how to use Ecamm much better for everything that you use Ecamm for, right? Last week on Ecamm, on Building Blocks, for example, we went through new features that you will find in Ecamm Live Beta. This Wednesday on Building Blocks, Anna's going to show you how to create comment overlays. So, you walk away with those things, and then you add those to your run of show to improve your run of show, right? I want to show you, speaking of run of show, I want to show you an example of how we create a run of show in Craft. Again, you could use your Google Docs, you can use Notion, but Anna came across Craft, and that's what we've been using, and it's been a working document, and there's been a lot of updates to Craft, and there's a lot going on, but I just want to show you. I'm just going to go into demo mode. I'm supposed to bring it in as a screen share. Let me do this. Boom. Right? So this is, I want to show you this from last week's, I think let me get out of demo mode. I did the wrong scene. Let me go here, option. Let me just make sure I just do it on this one, live demo mode. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is last week's ENN's run of show. This was a little bit more more fleshed out, right? So you can see up here we have a space for any notes, and this is basically what we covered. What's happening at Ecamm. We had the thumbnail workshops. We're announcing that, so that happened last week as well. All right, I'm just gonna scroll through this really quickly. Community questions. This is where we highlight things that are happening in the Ecamm Live community. Trivia, right? So you can see this is how we follow this. And then once we have all of this, then we kind of like, we build this out in Ecamm and make sure that we're following our run of show in Ecamm, okay? And again, this just like how Adrian showed you, here are the scenes that we have here, right? So this is yesterday's show. And yesterday's show, I'm gonna go through this, but I'm just gonna just guide you through what you're seeing and what you're about to see, right? We have a countdown scene, intro, a main scene, a dedicated scene for comments, updates that you see here, Ecamm community members that we're gonna highlight. We have a screen share for trivia. This is Stream Alive we're using here. This is another screen share scene. We have solo scenes, Anna, a solo scene for myself, more trivia scenes. This merch scene that you see here is a scene where it's a widget, a web widget, where we take you to the Ecamm Live merch store and show you what type of merch is available. Here's another solo scene for myself. And here's a closing scene. What we like to have fun is just drag and drop all the comments that people are mentioning. Thank you, great show. I'll show you that. And then an outro. And then just in case, we have a just in case, be right back that you see here. If in case there's like any technical difficulties or hiccups, we can just pull up the be right back. I'm gonna show you all of this. And then we have archives, because what you noticed here in this show, that there was no guest, right? So what if we do have a guest? I'm not gonna recreate that scene. I already have it in the archives. And I'll show you that as well, like what those look like. So for that, you know, we create a guest graphic. So give you some ideas of what you can do. Create a guest graphic, a solo scene for the guest, an interview scene for the guest. And if the guest needs to present, make sure you have placeholders ready for that, for the guest to be able to present and whatnot. So definitely have tons of stuff here in the archives. And also, once you build out, for example, you saw how Adrian built out that scene with the background and the rectangle to the side and the camera overlays. That's when you could start copying and duplicating that same scene and repurposing it for other scenes. He took that scene with the main camera and he repurposed it and added Adrian and Fuljens together, right? You could take that background again, repurpose that and create a screen share scene. You could take that background again, repurpose that and create a scene with 3 cameras, 4 cameras, and so on and so forth. You continue to build it out. And that's why it's so important to organize and label everything and group everything as you see here, okay? So I'm gonna go through them. And this is the scenes panel I'm gonna go through. You're just going to go through a run of show real quick so you can see. And I'll just walk you through what you're going to see. I'm gonna get out of demo mode. And we're gonna start off with a countdown. And then there's gonna be a video intro, right? You can do little video intros. The video intro that you're about to see, that was created in CapCut, okay? And I'm not muted here, but normally on these waiting scenes, we're normally muted, okay? But for the sake of this, I'm unmuted here. And we create like a little veil. There's like a blur. You can see our camera's back here. Let me turn it on so you can see, right? So you can see me there. And then Anna will be on the other side there, right? So that's what you're seeing there. And then once the countdown is done, we come to our intro. And then it cuts to here, right? So this is cutting to the main scene of Anna and I, okay? And then if we want to address comments, that's how we start. So we introduce ourselves, we introduce the show, and then we start saying hello to the members. We start greeting the audience. And how we greet the audience, we don't do it on this scene here. We come to this scene here. And this is Tatiana. This is a this is a comment from yesterday. But then I'm going to pull up a comment that I added to Zoom when I messaged Adrian about the sound was fine earlier. But that you can see. So this is an example. We leave all of this because, for example, you saw Tatiana's comment was a lot more text. So this is an example of how you can create a placeholder, a dedicated scene for your comment overlays. Okay. Now I'm going to go through some other scenes. This right here is a web widget that you see here. We're promoting office hours. So this is a web widget overlay. You just enter the URL for the office hours link and it will appear as this. We have the web widget placed over a background. So this is a different background than what you saw Adrian was presenting. We also have the drop shadow there as well. I love the drop shadows. And here's another example. So this was the thumbnail. We were promoting Ecamm Foundations yesterday, right? So this is just like a full screen of the thumbnail. And then community questions, right? Again, see how what we're doing? We're using that same background and we're repurposing that background throughout our scenes. This is people having issues with, the portrait mode in the Mac. And we were talking about how to address that. And here is another one here where people having issues with the glare on the teleprompter. So we went over that on ENN as well. And I have a screen share. It's probably going to show, okay, probably got jacked up a little bit, but here's a screen share scene. And then just fun things that you can do is, so if Anna is taking the lead on a conversation, you notice that her camera overlay is a little bit bigger and I'm off to the side. And now if I'm taking the lead, you see that swap over and then I a little bit bigger and Anna's to the side like that. And here is the merch. This is also web widgets, right? And that's what's so good about that, because the web widget, you could always, let's say you're always referring to a specific website. You always have that in your run of show. Just have it as a web widget. So you don't have to worry about creating a screen share and, and going to your browser and pulling it up. It's always there in your run of show, always.
Fuljens, okay? Sorry.
And, yes.
I've just seen a question in there exactly about that, just asking what a web widget is. Do you mind just backtracking and showing, I'll come back off again, what that's like to build a scene and bring that in, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is going to be your friend, my friends, because the web widget is so simple to do and so simple to create. I'm going to show you right now. So we're going to go into live demo mode. Let me just clear this for you, just make sure there's not much clutter here. Okay. So here in your overlays panel, you ever wonder what the little globe icon is? That is your web widget, right? So you're going to click on that. And then this interface will appear. Okay. And this is where you're going to enter your information for your web widget. So for this, I'm just going to select ecamm.com. And then widget options. Width and height, I usually change this to 1920 by 1080. Leave the frame rate at 30. Usually click on high resolution mode. Don't click on keep running. I would like to make sure it refreshes, especially sometimes when you're playing something with audio, it's going to continue running when you leave the scene. So use that with caution, please. Fill entire frame, you could do that, it's gonna fill in frame, but I like to fill it myself because I like to fill it over an existing background, so I don't do fill entire frame, transition none. And it's going to look something like this. And there you have it. That's as simple as it gets, right? And I could just take this, and as Adrian said, Command tilde to clear the interface, and we just place it over like this. Right? So the web widget is going to be your friend, especially if you don't have much real estate that you're working with, you don't have multiple monitors, and you don't want to basically have to rely on another monitor to pull up a screen share feed from your browser. Use your web widget whenever possible, and it's always going to be there in your run of show. Okay, I'm going to now remove this. Where's my overlays? We're going to hide that. and we're going to continue. So we were at the widget, and this is a solo scene for me, just a blank scene. And let's say we're co-hosting. On our hand, we'll have a blank scene, and I have a blank scene for today, right? Because for purposes just like this. So when Adrian cuts to me full screen, I'm going to be able to demo things like that using this blank scene. Okay. And closing. Here's a closing. This is what we like to do. You may want to do it, or you may do it differently. Or when you just end your show, you just end it. It's like, all right, thank you, bye. And you end the stream. But we don't do that. We have a dedicated thank you scene. And then when people are saying, hey, thank you, the show was great, giving the feedback, we just take the comments, as you see here, and we're dragging and dropping it. Whoa. And we're dragging and dropping it into the scene. So I'm just showing it to you here so you can see what we're doing, right? And that's what you can do. That's a cool trick that you can do, is just drag and drop. And that's how you could create multiple comments on the screen like this, right? But we're not doing it on this one. I'm just deleting this. We're gonna do it here. So you're gonna see, I'm looking at the little preview here, and I can see like there's still comments left over from last night's ENN. So that's gonna help you understand what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna unmute here, and usually on this scene here, when we are pulling the feedback from the family, we're muted here, but just for the sake of this demo, I unmuted myself here, but we usually mute it, and we should have music playing. And I believe there's music playing right now. Right, okay? So another thing that we do also, we love to include good upbeat music into our run of show. We use that for the intro. We use that for the countdown. We use that for trivia, and then we use that for the closing scene here, right? As you can see here. And it's as simple as, if you want to add music to your scene, it's as simple as making sure that you have the track in your sound panel, your sound effects panel, and just taking that and drag and drop it into the scene like this. And there you have it. Okay? And now it's going to play. And this is the Ecamm Fam Jam that you're hearing now. Very important when you're doing this also, there's two ways you can control the sound effect or the track that you added to the scene that you just dragged and dropped to the scene. One is through the sound levels panel here. But keep in mind, that is your master sound effects volume, right? You can actually manually control the volume per scene as well, because what if you leave this on 50 for everything, and you want that sound playing in the scene to be a little bit lower? This is how you do it. Right? So you can see that it was set to 100. That was too loud. So now I just click on the little gear icon up there and then just change it like this. Right? And that's how you can add music or sound effects to a dedicated scene and adjust the volume for those music or sound effects per dedicated scene, okay? And I also mentioned that we have archives because, as you saw, there was, when we were going through that run of show, of course, by default, Anna and I are, co-hosting together. So that'll kind of be a setup for interview, but both of us are bringing guests on. So we have placeholders for that, right? So we're gonna go here into the archive, and we had, a few weeks ago, we had Lux from Streamalive. So this is something you can do here in Ecamm, right? He sent us his photo. We put his name and his title, the branding and things like that. So, this is how we like to bring on guests, introduce guests into the show. And here is a solo scene for him with his lower third name, and branding and things like that. And then we also had a scene where he was going to present. So this, what you're seeing here, this camera overlay in the back, that will be his screen share because he was in Zoom we'll get a little bit into those details tomorrow when we're in the Zoom room for day 2. And you see these camera overlays down at the bottom, you know, so we have a layout like this. This was for him full screen. Again, we always make sure you have a nice full screen, nothing branded, nothing on the screen. This way somebody could just take control on their end and do what they need to do without any of your elements or assets in the way. Always have that ready, okay? And let's see here. I just want to show you the interview, what the interview looks like, but it's not here. Actually, no, this is it here. This is it here. So this is another example of a camera layout you can do, right? Lux was guest 2 here. Anna's up here and I'm down here, right? So it's 3 cameras on the screen, but you can see this is just to give you an idea of different ways you can lay out your cameras. You can have them 3 tall cameras side by side, but we kind of like, you know, just create different layouts. And it gives you this nice finished widescreen look, right? And we have the placeholder for the lower third down here. And you notice how on the scenes here, we have lower thirds here. So you can either make sure, if you're gonna bring a comment overlay here, make sure it's gonna cover that entire thing, or kind of lay over, maybe make sure it has a solid background so you can't read what's underneath the lower third and things like that. Or as we mentioned before, come to a dedicated comment scene here. Okay. And let me see what else. We do trivia, right? We've been using a Stream Alive tool lately, but this is how we would do trivia also in Ecamm. We did something like, let me see here, right? And you could hear the music playing a little bit in the background. And we kind of do a Jeopardy format. You see the timer there. So nice, simple, clean layout. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And what's cool about this is if you do something like this, and you want to reveal the answer, check this out. This is the importance of labeling everything, right? So here's the question up here, and here's the answer hidden. Here's the lower third. I'm going to hide that. That's basically the whole thing, the background. But when we reveal the answer, and the answer pops up like that, right? So just something nice and simple. You let the audience answer, and then once the timer is done, you just pull up the correct answer like that. Nice and simple. You don't have to have like any additional software or anything like that. It's all built in Ecamm. Let me see what else. Let me see what else we have here. That is, you know, a lot of the other stuff that you see here is probably like a repeat or additional things, but this is pretty much the same. As you can see, we're repurposing things. I'm going to show you a little bit something a little bit later on after this. But I also want to show you, after all this is done, after the show is done, we will close it out with an outro.
Hey, Fuljens. Brilliant. Fuljens.
And I'm going to unmute myself just to show you something here, how you can automate your run of show in Ecamm, right? Because with the outro now, when the outro is done, we have it set to end broadcast. Okay, so that is the final thing. We don't click that button until it's time to click it, until we know it's time to end the show, because that is going to end the stream once it's done. Okay, so that is our run of show, and I'm just going to go through it one more time in full screen so you can see. Right? And then what you saw there was once that intro finished, instead of end broadcast, it just goes to the next scene. So you could have that option is in a drop down as well. And it cuts to this for you, right? So that was like a hands-free. In addition to that, and again, like we're just going to automation, even in the waiting screen here, this timer is set to go to next scene when finished, okay? And then, if I could catch it, this intro is set to go to next scene, all right? This is automation for you. And then and then it'll cut to here. So now you could take control of the show, add your scenes to your Stream Deck, or as I've been doing, I like to manually click on the scenes in the sidebar there versus the Stream Deck. So it's up to you. And then now manually controlling the scenes, comments, promotions, Ecamm Live Community, and then the screen share, which is jacked up right now. Don't worry about that. And then dedicated scenes for solo. And then another web widget for merch, solo, the closing. Here's the be right back. And you see, as you can see, you know, a lot of this is being repurposed, right? You can see how we repurpose these things, right? And the closing. Okay. And I just want to show you something here because I know Adrian mentioned the grid. But before I get to the grid, I'm just going to peel back the curtains a little bit more for you. So we can go here into the overlays. I'm just going to hide things one by one so you can see how these things are organized. This way you can get an idea of how you can organize your scenes and your overlays and whatnot, right? Okay, so this first group that I'm going to remove is text. You see that? So remove the text there. Okay. The next one is the lower third. You see that? So all of that is grouped into one specific folder, the entire lower third there. That's the Ecamm branding, the little, the weather and all that stuff is all in that lower third folder right there. Camera. And now we're with the background. And something really, really cool that you can do. Notice this background here. You see the difference? We added a little blur over it because we didn't want this to be too prominent. So we added a blur. And the blur is the same thing. You just pull up the shape. You pull up the shape tool. Click on the pencil here. And instead of fill, right now it's on motion. Adrian had it on gradient. You could change the fill to blur. And it's going to add the blur on there. And that's how you can do blur. And there's other things that you can do here. There's blur, there's a zoom, there's a motion, there's like a pixelation. So really, definitely, as Adrian mentioned, testing, play around with these things and see what works best for you and your brand. Twirl, pinch, there's so much of these things here that you can, but for this one, trying to keep it nice, clean, simple, we just did a blur. Okay, so that's where the blur comes from. And very important again, when you're doing this, just mind you that it's not going to be labeled blur. You have to manually label these things as you go along or it's going to get very messy. You don't want a bunch of rectangle, 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 rectangle in your folders. You want to relabel this rectangle into blur. So you simply double click on rectangle and relabel that blur and hit enter and you're good to go. And that's when you could just drag and drop into wherever you need to drag and drop it. Okay? So that's one thing. The next thing is the background. We have the background here, but I want to show you how easy it is to swap something out and rebrand this thing. So I have the Ecamm Foundations background. I have it currently into show and background. I'm going to hide the one that we're using for ENN. And I'm just going to slide it up here. And I'm going to actually hide the blur to reveal those details. Okay. And then Adrian had, so I'm pulling up the shape again, but it's pulling blur because that's the last, that was the last thing that we used. That's Ecamm's muscle memory basically. Okay. But I can do the same thing here. I can do fill, gradient, and then change the colors. I have an Ecamm color palette here. So you could just take two of these Ecamm colors think there's something similar to what Adrian had, and I just do something like this. Let me clean the interface. Do that. And then again, you don't want to have a bunch of rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. So this will what? Sidebar, right? And then just drag and drop that right there. Lock it, lock this one. And since, you know, Adrian and I both love shadows, check this out too. You can double click the sidebar and do a shadow and make it pop. Look at that now, add a nice little shadow on the side there, right? And then let's see how this looks like if we were to bring the lower third back on and then bring the cameras back on and then bring the text back on. And just like that, we have a brand new, layout. And I'll come out of demo mode for you so you can see that in full screen. And how long did that take? How long did that take for me to just add a background, swap out the background, add the little bar on the side, do the drop shadow. Even if we wanted to change this ENN to maybe like the orange, I'll show you that. Again, we come to the lower third folder here and just find that lower third, and you'll see these elements here, but this one that's called logo is the corresponding. Okay. Now let's see something. I can go here and change the colors manually, but since we're showing you tips and tricks here, watch this. Maybe this will work. So I'm gonna take this gradient that we created here, right click that and say copy. Now come to here. Need to unlock it first. Watch this. And say paste settings. Look, you see what I'm talking about? How just quickly we just took the settings of the sidebar and we transferred it over to the logo placeholder for the ENN, right? So we just, again, right click, copy, and then come to this one and say paste settings, right? As if we wanted to do it here also, I would have to unlock it and say paste settings. And that's just look how quick that is. I don't like this. I like the orange, I like the blue, but I kind of prefer when it was blue. So I'm gonna just do Command Z to undo what I just did. Undo, Command Z, undo, and bring it back to normal. Okay. And then of course too, if for any reason that I feel that these circles are too prominent, I could always turn my blur back on. You see that? But all those little lines of circles kind of disappear because I think the blur is kind of really taking over. It's too strong. What you can do also, if you do want to keep the blur, you can actually adjust the blur as well. I'm gonna come here again. Maybe just bring this here so you can see it much better. We take the click on the gear icon, and right now the blur is set to 62. So you can actually lower that too. And if you notice, you can see a little bit of that design popping through again, right? So that was on 62. This is on 50. That's still too much. So we could bring it down to like maybe 40, okay? And let's see how that works. So we're going to, just so you can see if it did anything, we're going to find the overlays panel again. Where did it go? What am I doing? There it is. And then we're going to hide the blur and see if there's a difference. Yes. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see that it did make a little bit of a difference. So this is without blur, and this is with the blur. It did soften things a bit. Without blur, with blur. Okay. So those are little things that you can do. And this is all built in Ecamm. And essentially, all that we did here, all that we imported was the background image and the Ecamm logo. Believe it or not, everything that you see here is built inside of Ecamm with the exception of the Ecamm logo and the background image. Okay.
Fuljens.
And yes.
Yeah, you heard me this time. I'm like your little conscience down here. Look, yeah. No, I just thought I didn't want to kind of interrupt and take the screen away from you. But I just wanted to jump in as a few questions and things down here. And while you're kind of in that flow there with that, let's bring them. Let's try and answer a few of them. This is excellent, and I think it shows a different style to doing this as well. And you know, one of the first ones that I'd got in here was Big Dog Mum that said, with all these scenes, how many profiles are you using? Confused about the profile, what the profile is and how to use them versus scenes. So I think I've come at this very much saying, you know, like you've got a show here. This is your ENN show, and this is all within one profile, isn't it? But you're doing weekly shows, so it's changing a lot. It's different to what I've just demonstrated, where I'm saying this is your show and it doesn't change week to week. You know, you stick with this branding, and maybe that's where the confusion's coming in. But when would you choose a new profile, right? You've obviously got a lot organized in there within the same profile. Yeah. So how do you organize and use profiles?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question there. So this profile that you see here is called ENN Q1 2025, right? So this is dedicated for ENN. But if we do building blocks, I don't want to kind of mix up all of our building blocks assets with ENN assets, because that is a completely different show. We have completely different graphics, camera overlays, brand assets. It's a completely different thing. So thankfully with Ecamm, we have what's called profiles up here. Since I'm in the broadcast right now with Adrian, I can't swap them out. But as you can see here, you can see, for example, look at scene, the scene drop-down menu. Look how short that is, right? It goes down here to newsflash. If I go to profile, it's a whole plethora of profiles that I've created over the past, over the past 2 years. 2 years of profiles here, because this is based on when I got the Mac Studio, which is early last year. So this is 2 years of profiles, not only for the shows that Anna and I do, but for work purposes, for profiles that I build for clientele. All of that is there, right? So, and again, you don't want to mix those things up, which is why we do that. Another thing that you can do, if you don't want to use profiles, is simply group them how we have them here and how Adrian showed you earlier. So this 22525 is a profile. This archive could be essentially a profile. So you just have them grouped in the folder. All your different scenes are grouped in a specific folder. And this way you don't have to constantly switch back and forth between the different profiles. But another thing that I like for using profiles, let's say you want to, your camera effects might be a little different or something like that. The music that you play. So the music that we have here in the ENN, in the sound effects panel, is not the same music that you will hear on Building Blocks, okay? That's another reason why we like to have dedicated. Yeah, and then I was telling Adrian earlier, like, you know, just to come in blank, and I could just add him in and just pop him in. But I guess we'll save that for tomorrow. We'll save that fun stuff for tomorrow. But there's so many different reasons why you would want to use a different profile. Again, for branding reasons. It could be for camera reasons. It could be for sound effects, music, all that stuff. You want those things to be separate and not have them all cluttered in one space.
And a few things you can do with that, again, people might not realize. So you, for instance, build these profiles out for customers. So you could actually build it and, you know, where the camera is, set that to camera A, camera B, and then you can export it, send it over to them, can't you? They can open it up on their computer, and all they've got to do is put their camera, link it to be camera A, So those kind of things are really good as well, or moving from one computer to another. Maybe you're working from home, but you're on at an event and you haven't got your computer. You want to send your profile to it. That's one thing that just came to my mind. And also, maybe you're within one profile and you're thinking, there's like the intro. Maybe there's things in a scene that you'd like in the other profile. You can just copy and paste, can't you?
Exactly.
You can either drag it onto your desktop and do it that way, or you can just Command C, Command V, and it'll copy the whole thing across. Incredibly flexible.
Let's demo that. Let's demo that for them, Adrian. For example, that's excellent, because let's say you want to take this profile, right?
Yep.
And Command C, Command V to another profile. You could just, again, we're just going to show you here. Command C, and then let me just click out of it. I'll just click down here, or click up here. Actually, I'll just be here. Command V.
It went
up the beach ball, but that shows that it's working, because there's a lot of stuff here, and that's easily I beach ball myself. But now you can see two of them, right? And that's the same thing. You could switch to another profile. You could Command C in this profile, create a new profile, and Command V in that profile, and it'll do the same thing. Let me delete this.
Yep. Brilliant. We're going to lose time. I'm just conscious of there's some great questions in here. So Tyler just asked, how do you handle multiple guests if you're having a conversation going back and forth? There are 3 people plus. Do you just use the switcher? Tyler, can we come on to that one tomorrow? I think that would probably be more fitting within Zoom, because actually we can bring a few people up and we can practice that and see what happens. And again, it depends quite where they're going, whether this is out on Zoom or somewhere else. But Tyler, we'll come back to that one, please, if we can do in Zoom tomorrow. These are just a few that I bookmarked. Ed said, can you use settings to share a YouTube video or perhaps slide presentation? This was when you were talking about web widgets. Do you want to answer that one? So just asking, can we share YouTube videos and also Google Slides? I don't know if you know about that one.
So essentially you can use the screen share feature for all of that, right? So if we wanted to share YouTube video, there's 2 ways you can do it. One, you could actually do the web widget, how we showed you earlier. You just enter the URL of the YouTube video, and let me see. Can we do something like that? Hold on, let me just do this
while we're on.
I'm gonna just come to Ecamm. And I'm gonna pull up probably yesterday's ENN.
While Fuljens is looking for that, a little tip with YouTube videos, because usually when you play a YouTube video, well, you're going to have the ad at the start. If in advance of your show, you can actually, if 5 minutes before the show, I actually click on that web widget scene and the advert is on, whatever's going on.
So there it is here.
So
and then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you want to skip, if that's an advert at the start and you want to be able to skip that, what you can do in this web widget is to click keep running in the background, can't you?
Yes, exactly. So, so you can do the keep running, but however, be careful with that, because this YouTube video, for instance, has audio. So if you don't stop the video and you cut to another scene, the audio will continue on that next scene. So be very careful with that. And as you can see here, this is the video. It's playing just fine. This is ENN, carrying on. And you can do, actually, let me see if we can do the full screen. There it is.
Yeah.
And just do full screen just like that. And there is your widget.
And you could
the YouTube video playing.
What I was meaning, really, you could pause that at that point you wanted it. I know one of my customers does sport clips, and he's kind of wanting to show certain points in a video, and he just wants to play that one, so he can get it queued up, get past all the adverts, and just leave it paused on that scene, so that he comes back to it and he knows it's ready to go, and he can just tap play on there and not have to go through ads and scrub through it. It's just way more professional, isn't it? Or you can actually
it
from
sure
YouTube share. When you share a YouTube video, you can choose a start point on it, can't you? So it's another way of coming at it. It's just getting past the ads.
Definitely. And
Thank you.
another thing, speaking of what was it, the in terms of sharing Google Slides,
Google
and whatnot,
Slides,
that,
yeah.
that'll be screen share. So if we pull up a screen share here, I'm just gonna pull up my desktop. But Adrian, if you don't mind, we'll demo the Google Docs that that we're sharing. So all you do is click on the pencil here, and again, I believe the current version of Ecamm will have this, but if not, this is in the beta, which makes it even easier for you to select a screen share. We're going to go show, and I'm going to find the Ecamm Foundations document, and there it is. And that's it. And that's basically the same thing that you'll do if you have a keynote presentation or whatever. You just select it with the screen share.
The question was with around widgets. Would that Google slideshow be a public? Like I've shared a link to you. I'm not sure whether that. Well, shall we have a play with that and come back tomorrow and just, or have you got it there?
Yeah, I have it here, so I'm gonna try that right now. That's a good point that you have there. So let me see if I can find where my mouse went. So we're gonna take that same web widget that we have, and then we're gonna add the link to the Google Docs instead and see what happens. It will not hurt. Wow.
I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. That is so awesome. Oh, shoot. I did not know that either.
That's really clever. The thing to... The decider really is whether it's public or not, isn't it? If you're trying to share... It's a bit like, if you try to share a video out of a Facebook group, and other people haven't got access to see it, then it will just come up with an error thing. And it's the same on this, really, that if it's something that requires a password to get there. So I couldn't share one of my videos from my Kajabi course because it's behind a paywall. So that's the thing. If you can have a public link that will instantly open without any login, I hadn't tried that before, but that worked really well.
That was a first.
So that was Ed's. Thank you, Ed. Quickly, Court put, can you bring Spotify on? This is when you were playing the music.
Oh, yes. And let me just demo something also real quick for that. So let's say I'm not a Spotify guy, I'm an Apple Music guy. So I'm just going to pull up Apple Music here, and you'll see the Apple Music will pop up. I'm going to just bring it over here, and then that will be a screen share thing. That will not be a web widget thing. So on the screen share, for example, just click here. And again, this is the beta, but I believe it has it in the regular. So there's an option here. You could just select music, boom. And the Apple Music app will pop up like so. It's hiding down there because I put it off there, but if I was to display it prominently, you would see it much better. But yeah, and you could play it that way.
I was just going to say, much like in relating for people, it's much like kind of in Zoom when you want to share a screen and it says, do you want to have audio or something? We're really doing the same thing here, aren't we? We're sharing it. You don't have to see the Spotify window, but it is pulling it through. Interested you're doing it that way rather than kind of system audio pulling it.
Yeah, what I was going to do is for this, you can absolutely have it where it's not there and just make sure your system audio is going to pick up the music. But, this is for you just know that it's here on this scene.
Yeah.
However, you don't have to have it show, because what you can do is, that it's there. That's for your personal preference. That it's there, and to hide it or do something with it. The reason why it's there is not for it to be prominently displayed, but to click on the pencil and lower the opacity to 0. It's hidden. But it's there as an overlay. It's functioning properly. It's bringing in the music, but only that the audiences have to see it. You just hide it away.
Yeah. So Kane, there's a bit of homework for you. You can have a play with that and come back tomorrow and see if you can get that going.
Definitely.
How are we doing? I'm gonna have to skip a couple. Ed just said, any suggestions on preference for a drop shadow? Intensity, his can look a bit sharp, a little bit harsh.
Ah, yes, definitely. So let's go back to this one here. I'm gonna have to like redo redo that. Well, there's not really a redo because everything that's originally there is just hidden. But that is great. That was a great question because here, when you add the drop shadow, this is the default. Okay, so the default is currently set to blur is 24.
Not an opacity for that there, is there?
Right. So you have to click on the color picker, and then the opacity is set to 75. Normally, if it's coming off a little too strong, especially on a lighter background, and this blue, it looks great. This drop shadow looks great. But I would probably, the sweet spot for me, I found to make it look softer on lighter colors is either between 50 and 30.
Nice.
But right now it's too much. You don't really notice this drop shadow because of the background. For this, 75 is key. But for lighter colors, I suggest between 30 and 50%.
Fantastic. There you go. There's your pro tip. And that's hidden. Well, it's not that it's hidden, but it's not there straight away next to the shadow. You've got to click the color, haven't you? And then it's right inside there.
Mm-hmm. And then the color picker will appear, and then you could just select, you could adjust it right here.
Excellent. So Genealogy with Amy Johnson Crow said, so the different overlays go together to make a scene. Sorry for the very newbie question. Don't apologize. That's why I picked it out. I wanted to hear that from you, Amy. And we said we'd keep this simple. And I'm conscious we've kind of gone from, we've covered the whole thing across 2 hours, really. And I love it because there's a lot of people going, wow, I'm learning new things. But yeah, nice. So you're right, Amy. The scene is at the minute, the scene is Fuljens' screen with a little picture-in-picture of me. So that is the scene. But my camera, so this is an overlay. All of the little things that we've been dropping on are called overlays. So yeah, if you think of a scene being like starting off with a new PowerPoint slide and it's just blank to start with, and then you bring different things in, text or graphics or pictures, that's what we're doing with overlays. And you can just build them up within a scene. But then when you click the scene and go to another one, all of that changes. Rather than if we didn't use scenes, Fuljens would be needing to go like on that Fuljens. If you could just go back to your lower third one a second there. Like you would have to manually click all of those things to make them disappear. Well, you could group them, I know, don't tell me. Right. But for illustration, you would have to manually kind of click and change all of those overlays, whereas we just go to the next scene and everything changes with it. Exactly. Hopefully that answers, Amy.
And then for those who are, because I'm not too familiar with what it's called in PowerPoint, but for those who use Keynote, your scenes are your slides and your overlays are your object list.
Okay. Yep. Excellent. Okay. How are we doing? We've got 7 minutes, 6 minutes. I don't have to be that hard to finish, but Stephen said, Adrian, might there be the colourful roulette wheel giveaway? That's our favourite part of the live teaching. Steve, next week. So next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing the launch into our Ecamm Live Academy. And yeah, we'll definitely bring the spinning wheel into that one for you. But not today, I'm afraid. But I tell you what is, well, I don't know whether we... what I did, Fuljens, and don't think I wasn't listening but I suddenly thought I didn't do an outro, or I wanted to suddenly appear like this as a picture-in-picture on here, and I realised I hadn't made a scene. One of the things you can do here, and we can see it just there on your window, is this preview mode that actually allowed me as a host while you're talking to go into preview mode. I'm not affecting what is happening in the live feed. And it's probably the first time that I've properly used it. And it allowed me to create a new scene, drop it in, and then come back to the live one. And it means that I've made a little outro for, behind the scenes there. And certainly when there's maybe, you obviously work with Honor and I guess you probably use this preview more, that while one is talking, the other one can actually go into preview mode, make some tweaks and changes, and then change it back, and then all of a sudden there's a scene that's been created in the background. So I just wanted to point that out, that that's the first time really I've properly used it. It's not something I would use ever on a solo show.
It's it comes in so handy.
Really?
So I've most recently I've been.
This doesn't mean you don't have to do it in advance, though, does it?
It's right. And then the thing is, for example, you know, when I'm hosting webinars and I have speakers coming in to Zoom, and I bring the camera overlay and they share their screen in Zoom, and then normally the PowerPoint presentation, the keynote presentation is 16:9, but some presentations are not 16:9; they're 4:3 square format. So I'm on the scene with the presenter and the 16:9, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't look good because they're using a Google slide or something, and it's in 4:3. So what I'm doing, I'm in the back end, I'm recreating the scene where I'm reformatting their screen share to fit, you know, their presentation, and then I publish it and I cut to that scene in the background. So like those are times where the preview mode comes in handy. Yeah.
But don't do that unless you're a pro.
And unless you have time to do that too.
Yeah, because you can really get tripped up in it. And you're trying to change your scenes and you realize that you're still in preview mode and nothing's changing. And you're on time.
And for those, this is what preview mode will look like for you. Again, it's probably not like that now because I think this is a new feature, but this is beta, but pretty soon preview mode will have a thicker yellow border around it, so you know exactly that you're in preview mode still, okay?
Yeah, and I'm seeing Shaka's put that in here as well. Yeah, just have to remember to get out of preview mode. Bill says, how do you switch to live demo mode? I think I showed that right at the start.
We go to options up here and live demo mode. And then, or you can do Shift Command D.
Yeah. Or with a Stream Deck, it's programmable to a button, which works really nicely. You would only really need live demo mode if you're showing Ecamm. In the same way as Zoom, well, I use it quite a bit in fairness, but typically it's designed there really because normally like in Zoom, if you were trying to share the window, Zoom disappears and it's making sure it's hidden, and Ecamm's doing the same thing. So if Fuljens were to like share his desktop, all the Ecamm stuff wouldn't be on there. So when we're trying to teach Ecamm like we're doing today, we have to go into live demo mode and it keeps the Ecamm bits still on the screen. So Bill, you wouldn't really be using live demo unless you were showing something to do with Ecamm.
Definitely.
Carol says, Fuljens, will you cover using keynote slides in Ecamm? We absolutely will tomorrow. I don't know if we need to talk at the end of this quite how this works really with quite how we'll but yeah, I know it's a popular thing and we haven't done it today because we haven't needed to, but yeah, let's build something where we actually bring in a PowerPoint slide. Or a set of slides rather than creating individual scenes like I've done, and we'll definitely bring that in. I'm thinking that tomorrow is going to be a really nice opportunity, almost more relaxed. You know, I think when we're in Zoom, I certainly feel it's a bit freer we can have a play with this. You'll be blown away actually if you haven't been using Ecamm for Zoom's integration. You'll be blown away at what we can do that. All of this bringing comments on, things like this, we can do exactly the same inside of our Zoom meetings, if not better. Yeah. So what we ought to, before we leave, we ought to just let people know. I don't know if can you just come out of, we'll come back to this scene here a minute. Thanks ever so much, Fuljens. Fascinating. Lovely to see you as a master playing with all that. Guys, come back. You know, anything really that's come out of today, please, it's totally free tomorrow. We just want to do it on Zoom so it's more interactive. It's quite hard to look at a chat and know exactly what someone's saying. And we like with Zoom that we can just pull you up and yeah. So we'll please come and join us tomorrow. The links are in the description. If you want to come into the Zoom meeting on Ecamm, we have you'll be sent the links. Let me just find the easiest way to show this. I'll take that comments off and bring your Zoom on. It's funny. I've been sitting here so quiet for so long. I'm kind of forgetting it's mine. Oh yeah, I can show this. Right, live demo over here. So you will have this little Zoom icon over here, and we are on a show at the minute. So Fuljens is in here. Yours will be clicked on here. It will kind of say firstly, you've got a link to Zoom. At the top here, I've got a video. I'm sure there's plenty of other videos on the Ecamm channel as well, just walking you through this. I haven't really thought this through. I can't show you it. But you'll click up here, link up with Zoom first of all, much like when you sync up Ecamm to Facebook or YouTube. It'll just go to the browser, dial in, and then you'll come back here. And then you'll be able to either start a meeting or join a meeting, or you'll have scheduled ones. So where it says join a meeting, the link that you'll get when you register, type that into there and hit join the meeting, and you'll come from Ecamm into Zoom. You don't have to do this. You can just come in regularly through Zoom. But if you want to have a go at coming in from Ecamm into Zoom, this would be a fantastic little opportunity for you to have a play with it and have a try. And certainly if you have had a play at anything like this, and from what we've done today, you've built anything or built some scenes of your own and you want to show them with us, and you're brave enough to, we'd absolutely love that. So I'll be talking at the start tomorrow just a little bit about the integration and quite some of the features that you've got there with Ecamm into Zoom. And very quickly, it'll be the pair of us on here answering questions, seeing what you've been doing, still doing screen shares like we're doing here, answering questions. We'll bring on slides, and I think we're going to have a cracking day tomorrow. So please come and join us. There will be a replay for those that do join, but the whole point is it being interactive. Really try to carve out the time if you can tomorrow and come and join us. Just to say as well, if you're not able to join us tomorrow, I will be a week tomorrow doing our launch event for ELA Live, which is our Ecamm Live Academy. And that starts on I should know off the top of my head, 10th of March for 2 weeks. And it's training like this every day across 2 weeks, where Fuljens will be there as well. And it's a real highlight. We've had thousands of people come through it. And so we'll be talking about that a week tomorrow. I think there's a link in the description. I'm not quite sure. I'm not on my channel at the minute, but I'm sure Paul could drop one if not. But we want to respect your time and leave it there. But as I say, any comments, if you're watching this as a replay and you want to put a comment in, that'll get picked up. But if you're able just to hold that and bring it with you tomorrow, then fantastic. Come and join us over on Zoom. Fuljens, thank you again.
Thank you.
It's been excellent sharing with you. Did I make a good honor?
Always.
Right, and I've got a very poor little outro because I was thinking we'd have some nice. 1 second, right? We've got to do this properly, haven't we? Let me just. We need a better version of this. Let me at least make it white, because I think it will stand out better if it's white, won't it? And we'll pop that on. Now my text needs changing. And it's about to do. Oh, it shouldn't disappear, actually. I think I changed it. Oh, look at the shadows. Let's get them off. And we'll just change this text back to... We could do with the blue, really, couldn't we? So let's...
Yeah, then I was thinking about that too.
Let's pick the blue from there. It'll do. All right.
There you go.
So you can have a look at my little outro, and we'll pop up any closing comments, and we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate you all being here. And 2 hours. What a marathon.
You did it.
We did it. Thank you. I'll give you a high five.
Oh, no.
Oh, and I nearly clicked end broadcast. What a muppet. Right, outro. I need to drop shadows.